It's funny how many of us, after scrolling through a dozen cheap budget acoustic electric guitars, end up feeling a little nervous about even pulling the thing out of the case. You'll see those low-priced models that look shiny on the page, only to discover that the resonance feels thin, the electronics buzz, and the whole thing feels like a compromise you're living with for the rest of the season. That hesitation makes the decision a lot more personal. Do you bite on something cheap and hope for the best, or do you trust a name that's been around for decades? In the case of the Taylor T5z Classic Koa Hollowbody Acoustic-electric, the question is whether the price tag actually buys you a smarter, longer-lasting companion rather than a short-lived gimmick. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When I started digging into the niche of Hollowbody Acoustic-electrics, the first thing that stood out was how many manufacturers try to cheat by putting a cheap laminate on top of a simple dreadnought shape and then slapping on a pre-wired pickup system. That approach works fine for a bedroom gig, but it rarely holds up in a studio setting where you need clarity and a full, balanced response across the spectrum. Taylor's T5z, with its genuine Koa top and a Sapele back and sides, promises a different story, one where the wood's natural resonance is actually captured by the onboard preamp rather than masked by cheap hardware. If you're a singer-songwriter who spends a lot of time moving between coffee shops, small clubs, and home recording sessions, the practical strengths of this guitar become clearer. The Hollowbody construction gives the T5z a warm, airy tone that fills a venue without needing an external amp for most acoustic-focused songs. The Koa top, being a relatively light yet resonant wood, adds a subtle brightness that cuts through when you're strumming chords under a mic. In real-world use, that means you can walk onto a stage with just a small PA system and still have the instrument sit comfortably in the mix. No need for heavy external plugins to fix the tone. The Ebony Fingerboard, finished with a shaded edgeburst, isn't just an aesthetic choice, it actually contributes to the snap on higher frets. When you're playing lead lines or fingerstyle pieces that demand clean articulation, that hard, smooth surface helps the notes ring without the fuzzy feel you sometimes get on cheaper rosewood boards. Moreover, the slickness of the Ebony makes slide work easier if you ever want to dip into bluesy phrasing, something you'll find yourself experimenting with if you're used to electric guitar setups. One of the hidden trade-offs that comes up in the forums is that a Hollowbody design, while sonically pleasing, can be a bit more delicate when you slam the instrument against a hard surface. The Sapele body is sturdy, but it does have a thinner wall than a solid body counterpart, making it more susceptible to bumps if you're not careful packing it in a gig bag. For the average gig-going musician who's juggling a few pieces of gear, this means you'll want to invest in a well-padded case, something Taylor offers but at an additional cost. It's not a deal-breaker, but it's a practical consideration that a cheaper all-in-one model might gloss over. Another practical point is the onboard electronics. Taylor's Expression System 2 onboard preamp is known for capturing the subtle nuances of the acoustic body, and on the T5z it's paired with a standard 1/4-inch output jack. On stage, the signal stays clean, but you'll notice an occasional hum if you run long, unshielded cables or if you're near a lot of lighting rigs. In my own testing, a short, high-quality cable solved the issue, but that's an extra piece of gear to remember. If you habitually use long, cheap cables, you might find yourself fiddling with the preamp's gain knobs more often than you'd like. Who should buy the Taylor T5z Classic Koa? The sweet spot is musicians who already appreciate the tonal differences that come from quality tone woods and who need a reliable acoustic electric that can transition seamlessly from intimate CAF gigs to semi-professional recording sessions. If you play mostly folk, indie, or light pop and you value an instrument that feels responsive right out of the box, the T5z delivers that plug-and-play vibe without the need for a lot of post-processing. It also suits players who enjoy a bit of versatility thanks to the Ebony Fingerboard. You can comfortably switch between strumming chords, fingerstyle passages, and even light slide work. On the flip side, if you're a heavy metal guitarist looking for an acoustic that can handle aggressive percussive strumming, or if you plan to use the guitar primarily for high-gain electric tones, you might be better off with a solid body model that can tolerate more aggressive handling. Similarly, absolute beginners who are still figuring out their style might find the price a bit steep compared to entry-level guitars that still offer decent playability. Those folks could consider waiting until they've built a broader repertoire before stepping up to a high-end hollowbody like this. In terms of value, for